The sins never die. Can't watch the blood off our hands. Let the world fill us all. It's just means to an end. Our salvation lies beyond the truth. Let me suffer now.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Acting Relk and welcome to the Metal Gear Solid 5 discussion cast. I'm joined by a friend of mine and fellow fan of Metal Gear Solid, Kurt.
Hey everyone.
Alright, so the plan is that I have here is sort of go through the whole set of missions, talk about a few of the ones that we liked, and then get on to, as we go through, major character plot lines and stuff like that, and really get down to what makes this game good and what faults it has.
Alright, sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So, we both got the game. You have it on disc, right?
Yeah. I've actually recently repurchased it because I recently acquired a PlayStation 4, so I've been working through it on that, but I completed the game the first time on the 360 on a disc.
I also just recently acquired a PlayStation 4.
Yeah, it's sure nice not to deal with all the texture popping, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I was surprised that they actually released an older gen version considering how meaty the game is at times with the amount of stuff that is loaded into the Fox engine.
Yeah, I get the feeling that since the game was in development for a reasonably long time, I feel like maybe that decision was made early on, and maybe in retrospect they probably wouldn't have done it, but I guess maybe it was already decided and they kind of rolled with it.
So we loaded up the game, we started it, and you get to prologue, and we have the great intro of this, the man who stole the world. I believe it's an alternative cut of the song, because I've heard the original cut and it's not the same.
Yeah, I was talking to another one of my friends about that because I was playing it and he's mentioned that he had heard it somewhere else differently. I think it's I'm not sure what the artist's name is. It's like Midge, like Midge, like, and then the last name is like Ure, like Midge Ure, I think, does the version in the game.
Because the original is, of course, David Bowie.
Yeah.
So we get into that. We see what the game looks like, and then we have the multiple sequences of we'll say quotes Snake for the time being, passing out due to it's been 9 years. I only have one arm, and I have what was the number? It's like 127 bodies of metal in him.
Yeah, and then they, of course, wanted to be really nitty-gritty, and there was, like, human bone and teeth embedded in him, probably from, Paz or... Yeah.
So then we finally start our mission off. We see both the doctor and the nurse get taken out by Quiet before she's, quiet.
Yeah.
And our friend Ishmael starts to help us out of the hospital. Partway through of that, we of course meet the floating boy and the man on fire. Now, I think pretty much everyone who played this game knew, we saw the floating boy and it's like, okay, that's Psycho Mantis. That's young Psycho Mantis. I did not get the whole man on fire is Volgan thing until I actually had it explained.
Yeah, and I still kind of wish that was maybe more incorporated into, like, the main chunk of the game rather than sort of delegated to a side op. I think I remember seeing him for the first time on the trailers and kind of catching on just because of the unique sort of shape of his like undersuit that he wore underneath his military uniform.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had no idea how they actually were going to connect that and make it how Volgin was still, standing in front of us more or less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the one that really caught on to me is the shape of the bullets across sewn into his chest is the same sort of configuration that he has in Metal Gear 3.
Yeah, it sort of mimics the belt of rounds he wore.
So we escape all of that. They summon a flaming whale to attack us.
Jeez.
Jumping in here is the weirdest point for me because like I watched all the cutscenes for Metal Gear 3 and like sort of know conceptually some of the other bits, but jumping in here, it's like this series has the weird deviation of super high detail on like certain pieces of military equipment, and then that.
Yeah, it's weird because they never really came back to that kind of thing throughout the rest of the game. Other than that, he just sort of threw fire around.
Yeah.
And that was really the end of it. But yeah, in the beginning there, I don't know why, because I'm not sure if the whale was supposed to play into the whole like Moby Dick Studios thing that Kojima was trolling us with when he released the trailer for like the Phantom Pain, but without calling it Metal Gear, under a fake studio called Moby Dick. Maybe that's where they pulled the whale out of and just sort of kept it. But yeah that.
Well, and also having both Ishmael and Ahab as your aliases for your two characters. So Ocelot finally rescues you, and the real game begins, and you set off to Afghanistan to rescue Miller. So now, a very important question I have for you, Kurt. What is your favorite mainline Metal Gear song? Given that we have the newest one, Sins of the Father, to rank amongst all the other ones.
The other ones... Alright, that's... Mainline. Although Sins of the Father is probably up there for me, I'd probably have to go with Metal Gear Solid 3's theme, and maybe only because that was the first one I really played. I think, that would probably have to be my top. But yeah, Sins of the Father would definitely be towards the top half of the pile for sure.
Yeah. Me personally, Sins of the Father is my top one just because I replay the Red Band trailer over and over in my mind every time I listen to it. But like Snake Eater is definitely second, sometimes even first depending on the day, and then like I put Heaven's Divide just below that just because I liked the song. So you finally get to Afghanistan and you are privy to, man, this place is big.
Yeah.
I gotta say, it's going to be odd going back to the other Metal Gears and not having the whole open worldness to it and being more focused on corridor stuff. How was that for you going from corridor to open world?
Oh yeah, it was definitely interesting. I really do like the replayability it adds and the options. I think at some points it did add a very like the sort of the simple route of literally just kind of like skulking around the edges of outposts, is kind of diverting yourself around heavily guarded areas, which I think at some points was kind of an easy way out that was kind of the open world inevitably generated. But I think overall it was it was very different. It was a very enjoyable experience.
Branching off from that, what was your usual loadout play style when you had just besides the ones where it required you to use like rockets or something like that? What was your usual loadout play style?
I would, for the longest time, I kept the like Hush Puppy, like the tranquilizer handgun in the hip slot. More recently, I've tried out the an upgraded like Riot submachine gun. Just because it gives you a little more protection in Overwatch, because if you get spotted from far enough away and you're not able to land like the effective headshot with the tranquilizer pistol, you're kind of out of luck. Where with the Riot SMG, you can kind of, just put out a few shots, and if you hit them in the torso, you can land enough to stun them. So, and then other than that, I mainly stuck with the first assault rifle, the AMR. Yeah, I don't know what they call it, because they stopped using real firearms in this game. But so I stuck with that for a while. Eventually, I used the 7.62 millimeter assault rifle option with a foregrip and a dot sight and suppressor, because you can also, most of the enemies you fight are using 7.62 weapons like AKs, so you can pick up ammo off of them. So I usually ran with some form of that. I a lot of times kind of skip a back mounted weapon unless I needed it for the mission, because evidently they increase the sound you make as you move. Heard in one of the game tips I saw during a loading screen. And it brings down the deployment cost because I didn't need it. And then towards the end, I also started using it's one of the semi-automatic sniper rifles. But that can be suppressed, that I just put on the back slot, and then maybe brought like a grenade launcher instead of an assault rifle, just to have that option when faced with vehicles or whatnot.
Nice. That's somewhat the same as mine, and somewhat different, because I immediately, as soon as I could, got myself one of the I think I've went with the first sniper that unlocked and only played around with it a bit, but finally when I got the M2000 and put a suppressor on that, because most of my playstyle was pick off all the guys who were on spotlights from a distance and then slowly work my way in. But it was interesting because the entire time I was playing at a mostly long distance play range with that, is now I'm in this weird position where I've reworked my playstyle to use the 50 caliber rifle, and it really messes with how I play the game, because literally I sit on a hilltop from like a mile away and I can hit any part of anyone's body, even the heavy armored guys, and take them down into one, at most two shots. And so, and you can actually suppress that rifle, and the suppression lasts for at least enough clip to take out the entire base. So it's very odd that depending on your weapon choices, it can really mess with how your playstyle is going to play out.
Yeah, and I think like when you get into sort of the upper tier R&D projects, I think they sort of threw like sort of the balance factor to the wind, and they just had them as sort of rewards for getting that far. So you got the really powerful and outlandish weapons at some point that I think for the most part weren't really intended to retain like the game's challenge. That were just more so just like, okay, you've gotten to level 50, whatever, we'll give you some fun toys to mess around with.
And now they're even with the updates of the game, they've even added in higher tiers of that, some of which I haven't even unlocked yet, and will probably never want to, because of the deployment costs of some of them are incredibly high.
Yeah, it's cause I remember when playing on like I had an old like white Xbox 360 that didn't even have an integrated Wi-Fi thing, and I set up a Microsoft account so long ago that it was with an old email, so like I couldn't even use Xbox Live anymore. Just like seeing some of those, like the development costs and like R&D team levels needed were just like staggering, because there's no way to like really reach those effectively without the like online rewards and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I guess they sort of foresaw that sort of people's fortunes would just sort of increase like indefinitely, so they have really crazy stuff and crazy high deployment costs. So I guess there's probably some people who actually managed to have
enough GMP and stuff to be able to use all those stuff.
Yeah, because I know for a long time, like that did factor into my like loadout choices a lot, that I try and go as minimalistic as possible just to save on deployment costs of useless things.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess some people have gotten to the point where that's not really their concern anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, so you go through Phantom Limbs, you get a chance to explore this world, and you finally locate Miller. You rescue him, and suddenly we have one of our major opponents of the game, the Skulls, which were in the trailer, but even so are quite unexpected until you actually engage with them.
Yeah, definitely. And I thought overall that was like while the trailers Kojima came up with for this game were like amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I found like I feel like as I went through like the main like story based missions of the game, I felt like I had almost seen like all of the major cutscenes, like not without the proper context. I didn't know what was going on. It was like, okay, I remember this shot from this trailer, this and that. But yeah, even with all of that, like having the Skulls just show up right off the bat so early, like did surprise me the first time around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I finally, with a little help from some inflatable buddies, finally got that tick mark on the mission to escape them without being spotted. But otherwise, they are incredibly hard to deal with at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I think I haven't been playing the game as much recently, but I tried a few times, but I don't think I ever got the escape without detection.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time when I first played, it was just, get on the horse and book it as fast as possible and try and get out of the mist.
Exactly. So we finally rescue Miller, and we go to New Mother Base, which honestly, in the early game, was one of my favorite parts, was just wandering around Mother Base and just exploring it, especially when there were plentiful amounts of rough diamonds to be found.
Yeah, those are a nice boost, definitely, especially early on.
Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of, like, I imagine you've seen the Easter egg of go up to the wall where it says falling boxes, and a box will land on your head.
Oh, yeah, I spotted that one in a YouTube video once. And evidently there's, like, because they do ask for your birthday in the prologue, yeah, evidently there's a sort of birthday Easter egg as well.
Yeah. So then from there, it's start to do odd jobs, and this is where I think, and it's not so much in Chapter 1, because in Chapter 1 you're getting used to the game, you're getting used to Afghanistan, and it just feels kind of fun to explore Afghanistan and feel the world. But at the same time, it's very off the beaten path of these aren't part of the story. This is about you building diamond dogs.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I can understand maybe what they were going for was just to sort of further the feeling of, like, anything for revenge, like you're taking up any, like, contracts you could find and doing these missions that weren't related to your main plot, but they were just to show that they were literally resorting to doing fighting for anybody to get the money they needed to take on Skullface.
Mhm.
So I guess maybe that was what they were going for, but I definitely agree that, yeah, early on you don't notice it, as you said, because you're just sort of taking it all in. But then, after a while, you realize, like, a lot of these, like, you know, main missions should really, like, belong in the side op section.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But at times there were ones where I thought it was just going to be another one of those, and it turned out to be actually a main part of the mission. For example, the very first mission in Africa, Pitch Black. I thought it was, oh, okay, I'm just going to go to this base and blow up the thing and whatever. But then it goes, oh, no, this is actually kind of hidden plot to what Skullface is doing in Africa.
Yeah, and Pitch Black was one of the rare exceptions because it advances the plot without relying on any of the actual characters appearing. Because the issue with that was because, like, they adopted that sort of, like, episodic, like, TV style credits in the opening as you fly in on the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
That while there are cool, like, style elements, I'm not sure how much of it was just Kojima wanting to put his name before every mission because Konami took it off the box.
Exactly, yeah.
But, yeah, I felt while they were cool, they completely ruined the surprise of that, because it's like, if Skullface was going to show up, it'd be, like, featuring
Skullface. Yeah,
yeah.
One of the worst ones was, I didn't notice it at the time, but I think in Where Do the Bees Sleep, they mention Sahelanthropus. They say it's in here, where it's a huge surprise where you just see this giant hand grab you, and you go, what is that? Because you never get a clear shot of what it is. I thought it was just an incarnation of, like, some power of Psycho Mantis, but no, it's actually a giant robot.
Yeah, and yeah, it was kind of interesting because I was confused because when you first see its hand, like, come out of the mist, it looks like very, like, stony, like it's made out of, like, sandstone or something, and very dusted. So I was sort of thinking along the same lines that it was like a, you know, telekinetic kind of construct out of, you know, all the ruined sort of beige rock you see all over Afghanistan. And I think they could have sort of kept up that ruse for a lot longer, especially since they don't say, like, Metal Gear Sahelanthropus or, like, Metal Gear, because it had like a T3, like, something, like, number, and then Sahelanthropus was its name.
Mm-hmm.
So they could have kept that up for a lot longer, because just the word Sahelanthropus is, like, essentially meaningless. But in, like, the launch trailer that came out, like, the day the game came out, that was really good, they showed you a full shot of Sahelanthropus, like, out in the broad daylight with, like, you know, the Metal Gear, like, introduction where their name pops up when you first see them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which I'm going to see. So, which, again, I think sort of ties back into that problem of all the trailers sort of showing almost every major cutscene.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the worst ones was showing Eli, because every single person who at least knows a bit about Metal Gear is, that's Liquid Snake. We know it. That's Liquid Snake. So we already know what his story is going to be. So we already kind of expect what's going to happen with his character.
Yeah, and, like, they really should have been more careful, especially just the nature of the game being, like, essentially like a prequel type thing, that even showing the smallest little clips of Eli, of course, I said snowballs into people figuring out a larger part of the plot,
Mm-hmm.
just because the game is a prequel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then we continue on in Afghanistan, and eventually we get the contact of Huey is alive. We can go rescue him. So we go out and we attempt to rescue Huey. Like, if you're like me, I went directly, it was like, oh, okay, the power plant's just up here, after I finished the back up, back down mission where you fight all the Russian tank forces and whatnot. And you step into that courtyard and suddenly, oh, this is a cutscene, this is a hidden mission. and suddenly your fight with Quiet begins. So I think that is one of the best just small missions ever, of just the cat and mouse game of poking your head out and her sniping like the stone just in front of you, and then finally being able to shoot back at her.
Yeah, and in like the game that's, you know, filled with like various boss fights against like just slight variations of the skulls and sort of missions that eventually did get repetitive, that was one of the better like missions in the game, just because like the huge like set piece nature of it. Yeah, I thought that was very impressive.
Yeah, and then you finally do whatever, either take her down with bullets, or if you're like me, I just called in the tranq rifle because I was scared if I killed her, she would be actually dead. But in subsequent stuff, I've realized that's impossible, considering how powerful she is. And then it's on to capturing her. So let's move on to something along those lines. Kurt, what is your opinion of her design?
Well, I think I understand what Kojima was trying to do. And I think, like, at one point he said that it was designed to be, like, satire on the portrayal of women in video games by just making her appearance just, like, so ridiculously over the top. It was supposed to, you know, poke fun at the ridiculous portrayals of women in other games. But, so, like, I understand maybe that's what he was going for, but I think it doesn't come off as, like, oh, you know, that's a clever, witty satire. It's over the top because, you know, you're doing commentary. It just came off as like, this is just like a realistic version of like cringy anime fan service.
And like, that's one of my problems with it, because her design is really the problem, because her actual character, once you understand the reason for her not speaking, makes logical sense and is actually pretty cool, because it's this understanding of, yes, she's dedicated to our mission of being an assassin, but at the same time, over the time as you work with her, she begins to just respect the boss. Like, I don't see it as any creepy-ish love story, or at least I try not to. But yeah, it was just, you could have, and like, obviously the main thing is just adding a few more pieces of clothes makes the character better. The best example of this is you beat Extreme version of that fight. Costume unlock is Sniper Wolf. I use that costume through the rest of the game because I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and there's also later on, I think it's just like an R&D like level you have to reach to unlock it, but you can get like her Cypher like XOF uniform as well.
It's after her interrogation you unlock it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, that was the thing. It was just, this character as a character is okay, and like, yes, it's odd, but it kind of makes sense once you understand the full story. It's just, god damn it, that design, it's too much. Especially, like, I don't know, like, I've played back just because it really threw me through a loop the first time I saw it. When you load in her model, her entire model loads in, like, in one frame, and then there's a pause, and the second frame, and then her boobs load in. They are off model.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's... And I think maybe it would have been better if they had made her more like the other skulls So instead of just like, oh yes, it's this completely normal looking, scantily clad woman, if they had maybe made her kind of like disfigured in some way, or like pallid skinned, so it would look less just like, oh, here's an excuse to look at this scantily clad woman, and actually sort of show like what she had been through.
Yes.
Make it less like look like her, like a pristine model, and more so like an actual, person who had been burned alive and subsequently had parasites replace their skin.
Yeah. Or at least...
a bit more, like a few more pieces of clothing would have gone a long way to make it a lot less over the top.
Yeah. Like, I think the level it should have been something close to Eva from 3. I thought that would be an acceptable level, I'd say.
Yeah, like it would still, have like a bit of the sort of goofy, like anime-like fan service aspect to it, but it would have been a lot less distracting, and probably would have let people see sort of the actual character's story rather than just the sort of surface appearance.
Now, I have to ask, have you either had it happen in one of your games or seen the video of what happens when you go out on, I think it's, stay 5 missions out on, or at least 5 days out on missions in the chopper, and boss becomes smelly and he has the flies around his head, and you come back with a high enough rank with quiet?
I think I know what that results in. Is that's like the whole shower scene?
Yes.
That it goes on, right? Yeah. I've heard of it. I've never seen it. I wasn't. I didn't know that's how you unlocked it. I mean, I think I had the whole scene with the rain happen.
I think that happens to everyone who just plays with her. The shower scene requires special requirements. I did it by accident and managed to record it. It's like the one in the rain is okay because it's kind of cool where like with the explanation of how she takes in water, which is still weird, but sort of this interesting scene of just boss being like, here's your boots, just being nice, and then like the rainbow comes in and stuff like that. But the shower scene is really creepy because not only are you being like cleaned off while showering with her, there's just all of your men surrounding her, like literally sounding like they are jerking off. It's really bad.
Jeez. Yeah, luckily I didn't unlock that one.
Yeah.
Have you gotten the I'm not sure the exact requirements for it. It might have something to do with the maximum ranks. I think I ended up getting that with quiet, but I think I'm not sure the episode number is called like a quiet exit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I unlocked that very late actually. Like I had finished, like I had got, episode 46, like the truth, and then just in the course of playing, I just happened to unlock that.
Yeah. No, I think like it's a great mission because you finally see her at just her unhinged power. It's like, fuck these guys. I'm gonna literally kick their dicks off. Yeah,
and it was also just really refreshing because it really broke up. Like, at that point, if you've, like, grinded through all of this game to get that mission, you've played so many... like side ops and rescue this guy, extract this soldier, this and that. So to have like some big extended cutscenes and like a big set piece battle, and like everyone was really cool.
I also enjoyed that just you finally get the reason for why he's called Venom Snake is he just gets bitten by a goddamn cobra on his arm.
Yeah, and it's annoying too because it's mostly, Snake getting taken down by a snake. But then at that point, after you fought, like, the entire Soviet armor division, you're probably wearing, like, battle dress at that point. So somehow the snake, like, gets its fangs through your, like, ceramite plate around your arm or ceramic plate.
Yeah, people have gone in and both, like, the ceramic plates of the armored set and also supposedly the sneaking set is technically bulletproof. So apparently a snake can bite through that.
Yeah.
But it also plays into one of the saddest reveals for me is literally Quiet giving up and saying, I have to actually speak in English to save the boss, but I know this will kill me due to the parasites within my cortex or lungs.
Yeah, and that was part of the reason why it was just kind of so, like, refreshing after all these missions was to see, like, some really good and, like, tragic character development, which I think is overall somewhat lacking in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was definitely one of the better, like, storytelling moments of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a shame that it's so hidden at the end.
It is. And, like, the thing is, I played it before I played Truth, because I just looked at all of those and I'm like, okay, going back to the hospital, this is going to reveal, like, the end of it. And I just, because it starts as a side op, which is kind of cool, because I thought, oh, it's just going to be, like, do whatever, go rescue her, and then it turns into the full mission, which was really nice. And I even said when I played that mission, it's like, I'm perfectly okay with this being the end to the game, which I would later rectify saying that Truth is the better ending, but this game also has multiple endings, I would say. You could even end at, like, chapter 1, almost.
Yeah, and that was kind of confusing for our first playing, because you're never really sure when it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it doesn't help the game is technically unfinished. Like, you can find it on YouTube. I think it was included on a Blu-ray disc with the PlayStation 4 Collector's Edition.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I think episode 51 called Kingdom of Flies.
Yeah, it's 51, and it's going after Eli and Sahelanthropus, and it's 30% finished, and I watched the video of it, and it fills in that hole of what happened to Eli, because he has to survive to become liquid later on, and what happened to Sahelanthropus, because technically it's more powerful than Rex, which would come years after it.
Yeah, and it's hell, it even has, like, the same whole head design and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and it's just frankly probably, well, you probably can't say for sure why the game was released in its current state. I mean, it's probably Konami getting tired of Kojima's spending was probably a good guess.
Yep.
But yeah, because, like, without it, when you leave the game, it's like, okay, Eli just ran off with a Metal Gear, the English strain of vocal cord parasite.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ever. I don't think it was ever clear if Sahelanthropus was armed with a nuclear warhead.
They never really went into it. They said it could carry it and, like, just essentially detonate itself, but I don't think it was ever armed.
Okay, yeah, because I guess at this point in the series, just another walking robot that shoots nukes isn't really big news.
Yeah,
so they kind of gloss over it. But yeah, he still was basically got away with a Metal Gear and the English vocal cord parasite, and it's just like, well, he's out there somewhere, but forget it. Let's not go after him.
Yeah,